guys, it's Cassera, and today I'm going to be doing the TBR tag. I've seen this tag multiple times. It's a pretty old tag, but it has some interesting questions. And last week I did a tag and realized how much I like doing tags. They're easy, fun videos, and sometimes you get a lot of insight into like your own feelings about books and bookish things. And in this one, hopefully we'll see what my TBR is about. So I didn't really go super into the questions, so I'm gonna have my iPad here to help me out, so if I'm looking down, that is why. So the first question on this tag is, how do you keep track of your TBR pile? So I actually have a physical TBR shelf. Unfortunately, like all of my physical TBR books does not fit on that shelf. Let me just go to the shelf. That'll make it easier. Okay, so this is my TBR shelf right here. I featured this shelf in a couple of my videos, but basically the higher up on this shelf it is, the more likely I am to get to this book anytime soon. So this top shelf right here is my March TBR right now, which I'm really excited for. And then as you go down, you can kind of think like which months I'll end up reading these books. So April, May, June, July, you get the point. And that's basically how I organize my TBR shelf. Question number 2 is your TBR mostly print or ebook? Between those two, definitely print, not ebook. I have maybe like 3 or 4 ebooks on my TBR and like probably over 100 books on my print TBR. I haven't actually done the counting for that. Maybe I will, and I'll let you guys know how many total unread print books I have, but it's a lot. The majority of my TBR though would have to be books that I don't own. So on my Goodreads shelf, I keep a lot of books like when I'm interested in a book or I get a recommendation that I really want to try but I haven't bought yet, I'll put that on my Goodreads shelf, and I'll usually borrow the audiobook from the library if I can get it, or if I can't get it from the library, from Scribd or Audible. So I think that one is probably like my biggest TBR is on my Goodreads shelf, which is generally audiobooks if I don't own the print book of it. Question number 3 is, how do you determine which book on your TBR to read next? So there's the top shelf of my TBR shelf, which I'll just generally, when I'm looking to read another book, I'll probably stare at that shelf for a while and just decide which one I'm most in the mood to read, basically. Usually I try to have a variety of books on that shelf, so I'll have like some YA, some adult, I'll have some fantasy, some non-fantasy books in there, so that there's like a few different choices that I could make, but usually that's just how I do it. I just stare at that shelf and it's like, what sounds good today? Or if I'm looking for audiobooks, I'll look at my library and see what's gonna be returned to the library soon, and if I'm really feeling to read it. The exception to that is when there's a book that I'm super excited about. If there's a book I'm really excited about, it doesn't matter whether it's on the top shelf of my TBR or if it still has 14 days left on my library loan. Like for example, A Little Hatred, I still had 2 weeks left on the library loan on the audiobook. Like I had 2 books I had to finish to get to it. Only one of those 2 books was on top of my TBR shelf, but I made myself finish the other book, which was like I didn't even own yet, in order to get to The Little Hatred faster. So like, if I'm really excited about a book, I'll read that first, regardless of what the other books that I've been planning to read for a while. So the next question is a book that has been on your TBR the longest. For this one, I'm gonna go with The Shadow of What Was Lost by James Islington. And the reason for this is, there are books that have been on my TBR longer than this, but in the last year or so, I've been really good at actually reading those books. This one has been on my TBR since high school, and I've never gotten around to it. I recently purchased this book, so like it's a new purchase for me, but it's been on my TBR since back then. Like I had been planning to read it since back then, but I didn't read it because I didn't have a physical copy of it. It's actually on my TBR top shelf, so I will definitely be getting to it this month, which makes me really excited because I've heard really, really great things about this book. Okay, so the next book is a book that you've recently added to your TBR. So for this, I'm gonna go check my Goodreads really quickly and just check the most recent book that I added to Goodreads. Ooh, I have a couple good ones on here, so I'm gonna talk about the 2 most recent ones. So the first one is The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa. So this book I don't know too much about. I do know it is a sci-fi book that is written by an Asian author. I recently saw a booktuber talking about it and they seemed to really be excited for it. So that's why I put it on my TBR. I'm hoping to get to that one probably later this year, probably not anytime soon, but that seems really interesting to me. I actually really like Asian science fiction. Like I feel like they do a fantastic job with the science fiction genre specifically, and I'm really excited to read more Asian inspired science fiction work. Obviously, this is not Asian inspired. It's actually by an Asian author, but you get what I mean. And I'm pretty excited for that one. And the other one was Women Is No Man by Itaf Rum. So this is actually a book of the month book that I decided to get this month. So you'll be seeing it on a haul coming up very soon. But this book is one of the books that I want to read for Women's History Month. I know I didn't really mention this in my TBR or anything like that. I didn't really realize it when I was doing my TBR that March is Women's History Month, just like how I did kind of for Black History Month, where I tried to read more books by Black authors and authors of color. I'm going to be trying to read a few more books by women. But this book is specifically talking about conservative Arab American women living in America, which I think is just an interesting and unique point of view, and I believe its own voices. So it seems like an interesting book for me, and I'm excited to get to that one as well, which that one will probably be sooner rather than later. Okay, so the next question is a book on your TBR strictly because of its beautiful cover. I mentioned this in my March TBR video, but Furthermore by Tahara Mafi. I completely bought this because of the cover. I really enjoyed the cover, so that's why it's on my TBR right now. I'm gonna be getting to it in March. So this book I'm gonna be reading pretty soon, but yeah, that's why I ended up buying it in the first place, was because of the cover, because I haven't heard too much about it. Since my March TBR video though, I've heard quite a bit about it. People seem to like this book, so I'm pretty excited for it as well. The next question is a book on your TBR that you never plan to read. I really don't know where this question is coming from, because if it's on my TBR, then I plan on reading it. Like, I 100% plan on reading it. I know I put a lot of books on my TBR, but I also read a lot of books, and even though I don't plan on reading a book like within the next year or even 2 years or 5 years, I do plan on getting to it eventually. So I don't really have an answer for this, because I don't have any books on my TBR that I don't plan on reading. I know there are some books on my TBR now that I probably won't ever read, because by the time I get to them, I might not be as interested in them as I previously was. But as of right now, if it's on my TBR, I plan on reading it. An unpublished book on your TBR that you're excited for. Oh my gosh, there are so many. I have an entire list for my most anticipated releases. There are more to that list, like the top 3 right now that I'm thinking of that already have publication dates. Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson, The Burning God by R.F. Kuang, and The Trouble with Peace by Joe Abercrombie. I'm super excited for all 3 of those, but I think the one that, like, if it came out tomorrow, I would immediately buy it for full price and start reading it, would be The Winds of Winter by George R.R. Martin. Like, that's one that I have been excited for since probably about 2012. I have been waiting for this book for the longest while, so this is one of those books where, like, if it came out tomorrow, I would immediately go to my nearest bookstore and pick it up, and I would read it. Actually, I would probably have had it on pre-order for a while, and it would have been delivered to my house. But yeah, that's the one I'm probably the most excited for of all the books that I'm excited for, even though, like, it's gonna take forever, and it's fine. Like, I'm okay, I'm waiting for it. But I'm really, really excited for that one. So the next one is a book on your TBR that basically everyone's read but you. Man, this one is super hard. I read too many books. I think for my physical books, like, I've read most of, like, the really popular ones, so I'm gonna check my Goodreads shelf again to see if there's anything there that I feel like a lot of people have read that I just haven't. So the book on my Goodreads shelf that came up as the highest number of ratings that I want to read that I haven't read yet is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, which surprises me. I didn't expect this one. I don't know why. It's a classic, so I really don't think of classics as popular, even though they're obviously popular because they're classics. I do want to get to this one, and I'll probably put it on my TBR soon, because it seems like a book that everyone seems to have read already, and I've heard really good things about it, so I want to get to it. So yeah, this is one that I haven't read yet, and it's been on my TBR for a while too, so I probably should get to it sometime soon. Okay, so the next one is a book on your TBR that everyone recommends to you. So for this one, I'm gonna be going with Heir of Fire by Sarah J. Maas, and pretty much the entire Throne of Glass series. Like, this series is really only on my TBR because of you guys recommending it to me, because I originally didn't really like the first book at all, but you guys really wanted me to try the second book, so I tried the second book, and I've heard so many people comment or just tell me that the third book is like their favorite book of all time or their favorite book in this series, and that I really need to read the third book to really give this series a chance. So yeah, Heir of Fire is one that it wouldn't be on my TBR if it wasn't for all of your recommendations. So the next question is a book on your TBR that you're dying to read. So I already mentioned A Little Hatred. It's not really on my TBR anymore because I am currently reading it. So I'm trying to think about the next book in my TBR that I'm dying to read. And honestly, that's just the book that I've been the most excited for. I'm going with A Little Hatred. It's kind of cheating since I already started it, but it's really hard to get me a book that I'm just dying to read and have it on my shelf and be ready to read without actually picking it up. Like, it's not gonna happen. So yeah, A Little Hatred by Joe Abercrombie is the book that I am most excited for right now. And the last question is, how many books are on your TBR shelf? And I don't know, so I'm gonna have to go count. Should I include only the books on my TBR shelf or all of my unread books? We'll see. We'll see what I decide to do with that one. So there are 43 books currently on my TBR shelf. Not counting classics or nonfiction, I have a total of 88 unread books. So that's a lot. That's about twice the size my TBR shelf can actually fit. I honestly thought it was gonna be more than 88 books because like 88 books, like I can get to 88 books in 1 year. Like if I really wanted to and stopped myself from reading anything but things that were on my physical TBR, I could finish my physical TBR in 1 year, which makes me happy. Like I'm pretty happy with that amount. I did the number wrong. It's not 88, it's 188. Ugh, my bad. Yeah, that's a lot more. I still think that if I did tell myself not to read anything except for my physical TBR books, that I could finish it in 1 year. Like last year I read 260 books, but 188 is significantly worse than 88. But if you guys made it to the end of this video, please let me know down in the comments how many books you have on your unread bookshelf. And did you beat me? Are you more than 188 or am I just a book hoarder? So that is all I have for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. I post videos every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern time, so consider subscribing. I also post bonus videos, so if you want to be notified as soon as I upload, you can click that little bell icon. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up to support my channel. All social media links are in the description down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.